Ghosts of the Deep is a very good dungeon, and I would like to talk about it. Spoilers for those who haven't done it. Please don't watch this if you haven't done it yet. First off, Arcology. I think the Arcology was a great setting. I know it's been a highly requested place to visit. People have wanted to go into the Arcology ever since Titan became a thing in the first place. It also links up quite nicely with this season's story flavor, I would say, although it definitely links up with the overall plot of the story. And even though I was completely oblivious to the big reveal until after it was over, it was still a really cool reveal when I realized what was actually happening. The first encounter is probably one of my two main gripes with this place as of right now, in that it just runs a bit long. I think 3 phases instead of 4 would have been sufficient. If you really want 4 totems to be hit, I think making it so the 3rd phase drops 2 of the vestiges would have sufficed. Although I guess if you're soloing, that's a bit awkward. Either way, first part could have been 3 rotations, and nothing about the experience would have changed at all. Now, the first time through this exploration section was fantastic. I personally don't mind the water sections too much in this season. I know there's a lot of complaints about how slow you go in the water. I know it's methane, I'm just calling it water. And at the moment, it doesn't bother me. At least in something like Deep Dive, the seasonal activity. In Deep Dive, it feels like right as I'm about to say, oh my god, how much longer is this? It's over. So I don't think it outstays its welcome there. In the dungeon, on the other hand, first time through is awesome, but I can see this part being a bit of a slog on repeat runs. In fact, I can see people getting to the second boss and just saving the checkpoint to skip all of that stuff, and I would not blame anyone who did that. It does end up getting to the point for me where I'm like, okay, I think we're coming up on the boss. Never mind, there's a whole other section that we gotta do. I love some kind of option here where you can opt to take some kind of a portal to skip a large chunk of this that you unlock after doing a couple runs. I don't know how possible that is, but it'd be cool. I'd be cool with it. Second encounter, Ekthar, and the final encounter, I enjoy both of these very much. First off, can we talk enemy density in the second encounter? It's like Bungie got fed up with the fact that people farm Shuro Chi and were like, oh, you like ads, huh? You like enemies? You like lots of enemies? We'll show you lots of enemies. And they did. The enemies spawn in here like crazy. The slaying experience is out of control. Awesome in my opinion. Where is this energy in Salvage? Defiant Battlegrounds in Season 20 had this energy, I feel like. Can Salvage get a dose of whatever is going on here? The underwater section during the fight isn't too bad at all. I think it feels pretty fair. The boss is a threat, but also isn't enough of a threat to make it frustrating, just enough that you gotta be paying attention at least a little bit or think about your movement a little bit. The air bubbles spaced around also feel pretty fair. I love that the boss is active while the damage phase is happening, means you gotta maybe think with close range weapons, or at least different weaponry, which is always a breath of fresh air as opposed to like, oh wow, man, rockets again, sick. I loved being able to bust out Legend of Acreus again and having it be a good option, or at least not a bad one. I know you can still do rockets though, but close range weapons are just fun. I love the chaotic nature of things, even if you can basically out-heal this dude's damage by standing in a healing rift. Not even a well, just a healing rift, but hey, can't have him running around one-shotting people on normal mode, I suppose. Getting to a damage phase doesn't take too long either, unless your underwater player just has no idea what they're doing, but you could also send multiple people down to make it go faster if you want. Mechanically, there isn't a lot that we haven't experienced in other places, like deep sight reveals are a thing. Hell, half of Season 12's shtick was kill a dude that drops a pool to stand in to deal damage. That's been in the game forever. But I think it's just the way that everything comes together that doesn't make it feel like a Spire situation where the bulk of the dungeon is just connect the dots. The second encounter, for example, has lots of very small steps, but they all happen pretty rapid fire, and there's enough combat going on to distract you from the fact that the mechanics aren't the most complex thing in the world. Not that they really can be, because this has to be a soloable thing. Final boss. First off, awesome reveal with Oryx. I highly suggest getting all of the collectibles to listen in on more of Xivu's reaction to Oryx's death. The performance is great. The dialogue is a really fun listen. Next, I had more fun figuring out this fight than in the entirety of Root of Nightmares combined on day one. I'm not joking. It felt like there was more to figure out in this fight than most of Root of Nightmares, and I had a better time in this fight than I did Root of Nightmares. There was enough going on that everyone in my group felt like they could contribute in terms of learning the fight, and there are quite a few rules you needed to figure out, like killing Vorlog in the circle, the symbol lineups, the deep sight, killing the Lucent Brood, bringing the Vestige back. Obviously, with all the mechanics learned, it's not that complex, but I still had a really fun time deducing what was going on. And I still have a pretty fun time with the fight after a few runs. It's maybe a tiny bit on the long side, but I'm sure with some more practice that it'll be much more manageable. The damage phase can be a little weird. The boss just sort of seems to do whatever they want in terms of their location, which is good because you got to be ready for anything, but also bad because there's no consistency in the behavior. Like sometimes they just sit there for like the whole time, and then other times they're like hopping around all over the place and teleporting. I don't mind if the boss is going to jump around, but it's the fact that their behavior doesn't necessarily feel planned. It just kind of feels like it's erratic. Outside of the damage phase, I love that things are still a threat. The boss is a significant threat. There are enemies spawning everywhere. The moths, so many moths that you got to keep track of. The combat here feels super tense every time. Really got to play sharp. Definitely got to throw on some arc resist. Yeah, I really enjoy this fight in a pretty similar way that I enjoy Spire's final fight. Intense combat section, doesn't take too long to get to a damage phase in a group. The mechanics are fun, although the experience is not as quick as Spire's final boss, but I don't think that's a bad thing given what this fight is. Loot-wise, dude, this armor, have you looked at it with photo finish? You can quite literally go full RGB in this armor. It's awesome. The armor shades really well too. I'm glad we didn't get any sort of weapon foundry themed armor. Bungie went in the complete opposite direction and gave us literal Oryx themed armor. It's dope. And the weapons, all I've been hearing is that the SMG is basically on par with the Immortal. The rocket launcher can get a ton of rockets in the chamber with various perks and effects. And the stasis waveframe is probably gonna dominate kinetic slots across the game. I got one with collective action, and it pairs so nicely with my Cold Heart Arc Warlock build. The perk might as well be permanently active. Stasis fusions were pretty much in control, but now you're giving people the option to toss a wave frame in the kinetic slot. I mean, do you know how good wave frames are? All right. Finally, the exotic, the Navigator Strand Trace Rifle. Shoot the enemy to sever it. Shoot your teammate to give them and yourself woven mail. The Catalyst, I believe, makes a grapple point or something like that, something along those lines. So I don't have it yet. I haven't gotten to use it, so I can only give an impression based on the description. Ultimately, offense is king in this game, and people I don't feel like are going to want to spend time giving their teammates woven mail when, number one, you got to shoot them for a little while. It's not just tap them. And two, woven mail is so easily acquired from other sources. Orbs of Power give woven mail, or can give woven mail. It's that easy. Now, I'm not saying there isn't some cool stuff you could do with the gun, setting up your teammates for a defensive bonus so they can do a thing, maybe trying to save them from being in danger or something like that, but I am skeptical of the weapon in terms of how often it's going to be used, how much it's going to shift the meta, so to speak. In terms of the solo experience, I have soloed, but not flawless yet. I did some learning attempts to figure out the boss fights. I did it on Solar Titan, Arc Hunter. I plan on doing it on Solar Warlock, maybe Arc, we'll see. And my suggestion, at the moment anyway, is absolutely going to be Solar Titan, if you have the option, in any given season. But we'll talk way more about that in my guide when it actually comes out. I'm also doing my solos with no seasonal artifact perks. Just keep that in mind. The second encounter fight is not as bad as I was anticipating. Solar Titan can do this in 4 phases with a bonk build and a tractor cannon, and I did it on Arc Hunter using the Lament in 5 phases total time, looking to be about 17 to 24 minutes, somewhere in that range. What helps is the fact that it doesn't take a super long time to get to a damage phase. At least to me, that helps. But this boss has a lot of health. It's a lot of health. Despite the fact that you can do it relatively quickly. Although I say quickly compared to the final boss. I know a lot of people have a problem with the amount of health. Personally, I'm okay with the duration of this fight. Although it does assume that you're using sound strategies. But if you are not used to the solo dungeon experience, this is like duality, but even more than that. It's wild. The final boss, my first kill on Titan was 6 phases, 49 minutes. My Arc Hunter was close to doing it in 5 phases. It ended up being 6 phases. It took an hour. Although a chunk of that time was spent wasting time going to wrong portals or not realizing what I was doing. I was very brain dead at that point in my practice. So it might as well have been around 50 minutes. This is a fight that requires about 7 to 9 minutes of engagement if you know what you're doing before even hitting a damage phase because of all the running around and doing of mechanics. Did you think Keitel was bad? Bro, you could be here 10 minutes with no damage to show for it. That's just unfortunately the nature of the fight and how the fight works. It's a grueling process. It will wear you down and it can be over in the blink of an eye if you're not paying attention. This is tough. And it's not tough because it's necessarily that hard. It's tough because it's so long. And I think Bungie is going to nerf it, both encounters potentially, and I think they'd be justified in doing so. This is one thing where even for me, I'm like, damn, man, all right. This is a long fight. Is it possible to do it in less than 6 phases? Yeah, I've seen people do it in like 3 to 4 with optimizing their location for DPS and doing armor swaps. But that is not going to be the norm for most people. Like, the people doing it in 3 to 4, those are the gamers out there. I mainly think they're going to nerf it because just there's a ton of people complaining about it. But even besides that, the health pools for these bosses are really high, basically scaled for 3 people. While the fight's duration boosts its difficulty and intensity, we're starting to creep very, if not too high in duration. I'm doing this in 5 to 6 phases. There will be some people lucky to do it in 8 to 10. They are going to be fighting for an hour and a half straight. I could do a full raid with my friends in the time that it takes me to do this one boss solo. I think I'd have an even bigger problem if it was taking, 7 to 8 phases to do a kill, and that's the fastest you could go. But part of the pain is just the mechanics. There's a lot of running around, going to different portals, grabbing the buffs, rebuffing with the deep sight to dunk the thing. But it's also combined with the high health pools that makes it so grueling. Regardless, I do feel like Bungie is probably going to do something about the health pools during the bosses, during solo. So if you want the Omega challenge, I would get in there sooner rather than later. Personally, this is one of the very few times where I would be okay with an adjustment. Because it's not even really reducing the difficulty to me. It's more like reducing the tediousness of the encounter. It's like, if you can survive 4 to 5 phases of this fight, and your DPS is good, you get it. You get the fight. And at that point, it just kind of drags and becomes more exhausting than fun or intense. So I think the question of dungeon solos just kind of moves to Bungie at this point. Like, is this what the dungeon solo experience is going to be like moving forward? Is the health bugged maybe? Like, it's not even supposed to be like this and I'm just talking for nothing? Because again, makes for a great 3-person experience, but solo it's a toughie. I'll leave it at that. It's not for the faint of heart. It's a toughie. One thing I will say, though, is that part of the struggle for a lot of people at the moment may be because the final boss is an 1810 enemy. If you are not at the pinnacle cap and or don't have a lot of artifact levels, give yourself some time to grind some levels up first. It will make a difference. If you are not even 1810 yet, I would probably not even recommend this solo unless you really, really want to test yourself. Also been seeing some complaints about there being a dungeon pass in the first place, how dungeons should just be included with the season, and to that I would say the same thing I say about any money-related thing that Bungie does. They ain't gonna change anything. Bungie just raised prices of seasons, and also you can't buy the exact amount of silver needed to buy a season. You need to buy more than you need because they don't sell silver by the 1200. Do you really think that they care at all about what you have to say about the dungeon pass? Keep up the good fight, I guess. That's all I got on that. Tier list wise, since I get asked about tier list stuff like 4 seconds after the dungeon is beaten, I would have to put this close to the top, if not at the top, in terms of day one experiences. I must reiterate that I had more fun figuring out the final boss of this place and doing this dungeon itself than I did in most of Root of Nightmares, and the part where I did get to do stuff in Root was hampered by the fact that I was annoyed from the previous encounters. I actually got to contribute here. Everyone got to contribute in the experience. Everyone feels like they're doing something important or can be doing something important. That's what makes this content fun. So please, more of that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.